Hey, and here we are, another edition of the Michigan Recruiting Insider, and it has been a really, really good finish for the Maize and Blue, and we're going to make an annual thing of this, right? We do this live broadcast of the Michigan Recruiting Insider like we did last year as Michigan had a strong finish, and guys, it went about like we thought it was going to go today. As the Wolverines, they experienced some downs, of course, but there were far more ups than downs when it came to the guys that they were able to reel in down the stretch. Joining me as they do every single week on the Michigan Recruiting Insider is the best team in the land when it comes to covering Michigan football, basketball, and recruiting. Starting off first with Steve Lorenz. Steve, how are you?
Good, Sam. Good signing day when everything went smoothly. Finally, fruits of Michigan's labor for us for a signing day. Nice to have a little change of pace here with a really, really big finish for them.
Yeah, and then, of course, Mr. Brice Marich. Brice, how are you?
Doing good. When people are going to look at this class, you're going to see a top 10 class, but don't sleep on the guys lower on that commit list or that signing list now, because there's a lot of schools, Sam, that are coming at some of these other guys pretty hard to the very end. So Michigan did a really good job today.
Now, it was one of those deals where Michigan was charged with turning some recruitments here in the 23rd hour, but some of them were actually turned before that. And Amorion Walker was one of those. So I talked about how, when the time came, I was going to make it clear about when I knew what I knew and when I knew it when it came to Amorion Walker, the former Notre Dame commitment, made public his commitment to Michigan today. I did that interview with him, the commitment interview with Amorion Walker a couple of weeks ago. And I don't think getting to know them over the last few months, since the beginning of the season, I've been down to Ponchatoula 3 times, this being my third. And he, I think, is a young man who takes his relationships very, very seriously. I think he did not want, I don't think he likes telling the people he likes no. I think that was maybe the thing with Notre Dame. I don't think that he was trying to lead them astray or turn them away. I think it was just a matter of, in this particular instance, guys, he had a tough time telling them no. But eventually he did today. He had to make a decision, and ultimately he settled on Michigan. Much like our first guest here on this special edition of the Michigan Recruiting Insider. He committed to Michigan today after a surprise visit, and he's going to join us to take us back through the thought process, what it was that led him to commit to the Maize and Blue. We're going to start off first with, from Portland, Oregon, fresh off a workout, going to join us to talk about his decision to become a Wolverine. First up today is Mr. Darius Clemons. So
What's going on, y'all?
Darius, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We are doing outstanding. Appreciate you taking the time. So first of all, congratulations on becoming a Wolverine.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Go Blue.
So let's just start off first when Michigan re-entered the equation. I mean, there was a time where Michigan at the beginning of your recruitment was very prominent. Then it seemed like they fell out, and then they got back in. When did they get back in, and when did you start considering them seriously again?
In all honesty, I was silently committed to Oregon until Coach Cristobal left. When he left, I knew I had to open things back up, and Michigan was one of the first schools that reached out to me after that happened.
Wow. So the silent commit. When did you decide to visit? Because that was the thing. I don't know if people really believed you were going to visit until you got on the plane.
I don't think Coach Gaddis thought I was going to visit until I got on the plane. But, I think Coach Cristobal had taken the job on a Monday. Coach Gaddis called me either Tuesday morning or Tuesday night, and he was like, "You have one more visit left, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." He's like, "Come on here." I was like, "I'll think about it." I ended up telling him yes, but I hadn't even told my parents I planned on visiting at the time either. Like, I just kind of told them yes to just like have it there as like a backup plan. I ended up going. I loved it. It led me to become Wolverine.
Wow. So guys, I mean, it's funny how this works. We talk about how the coaching carousel, how it for some of these schools, it helped them get on some prospects. Michigan wasn't in the coaching carousel there, Steve. And this was one where they were able to benefit by being a bystander And, so Oregon, their coach moves on, and suddenly a player that they were out for, they jump back in with because there was a coaching change elsewhere.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so Darius, my thing was, I think you released a top 5 pretty like a while ago, maybe before football season, sometime in the late summer. Top 3.
Yes, sir.
Michigan was pretty high on your list early on. You eliminated them in that list. Was that coming off of the 2-4 season last year? Maybe a lot of questions about their coach, the stability of the staff, and just their general situation. Is that why you kind of maybe put them on a little bit of the back burner there at that point? Maybe wanted to see more of them on the field, or?
I think it was a culmination of things. I mean, the prominent most being just like the overwhelmingness of the recruiting process as a whole. I was trying to cut it down to like a few schools because I was just getting tired of talking to a lot of schools. And I knew my season was coming up. I wanted to be able to just focus on my team. That was my main focus. But obviously, like Michigan going 2-4, that didn't help. But I had just taken visits to Penn State and Auburn, and obviously I live in Oregon, so those are just like the 3 best schools for me at the time. And I'm forever grateful for Coach Gals, Coach Harbaugh being open to me and letting me take a visit. Because if I would have never taken that visit, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now today.
Right. So it really felt like as you were going through the day, following you, it felt like it was, making the decision at the end wasn't easy. So what were you sort of tossing and turning about? What were the things that you were considering down the stretch that ultimately made it tough to make that decision?
Well, the 2 schools that came down to were Michigan and Oregon. And honestly, I committed at noon today, and I didn't know where I was going until about 11:55. But the last conversation I had with my family, it was my mom, my stepmom, my dad. They just told me, like, to me, Oregon felt like home every time I was there. And I wanted to go there because I thought it was just like the safe bet. And they all told me, Darius, to be successful in life, you can't always be comfortable. And doing things that are hard and uncomfortable in life sometimes lead to the greatest successes. That's something that really hit home with me. And after they said that's when I knew, like, Michigan was the place for me.
Wow. And so the fit had to be a thing. You had to get back. You had to see the offense. You had to, talk to Gaddis about how you would fit. I imagine maybe you talked to JJ because you talked to the quarterbacks. So how do you fit in this offense? How did they say they see you? I mean, was there a player they compared you to, if any?
They didn't really give me a comparison, really, but obviously I'm the biggest receiver now they have on the roster. Probably the I want to think. I'll say I'm the fastest. We can separate all those guys. But I mean, they got 3 really good receivers. They're all juniors right now, all coming back, including Ronnie Bell. He's been hurt, but they'll be returning 4 seniors. But the Coach Gaz, what he sold me on, he says I provide something to the receiver that they don't have right now, and that's like a physical, deep, like 50-50 like threat. Physical receiver. And I think that's gonna prove I work hard and compete in fall camp and spring ball. That'll lead to me getting some early playing time and contributing to the team's success.
So measurables, what, 6'3", Darius?
This past Sunday at Michigan, I was 6'3 3/4, 209.
209. And so now take me through this 40 time. 4.37. Is that, where did you run that? It was
at a combine here. It was a laser. It was a laser. So man, that's DK Metcalf stuff. 6'3", 210, 4.37. I mean, that's who it sounds like to me. Yes, sir.
So is that a guy that you look up to or try to emulate at all?
Yeah, definitely. But obviously, he's doing his thing in the league, and people like to give him crap for being stiff or whatever. But I mean, you aren't stiff and get first team All Pro for no reason,
So Andrell, he obviously got loose in the Michigan State game. I talked to your dad shortly after that. He said you guys were watching. Did that game? Did him performing well in that game? Did that pique your curiosity about Michigan a little more, seeing what he did that day?
Ironically, when we were watching that game, we were driving down to Eugene. That was the day I silently committed to Oregon. So I have to say no. But obviously, that's one of my best friends. So I was supporting him, and I was happy for him doing all that good stuff,
Right. All right. So, but when you committed, I imagine did you call him before you went public, or did he find out with everyone else?
He had called me like 8:30 my time this morning, so about 3.5 hours before I committed. And obviously, that's one of my best friends. So it wasn't even about him wanting me to come to Michigan. He was just like, hey, bro, where's your head at? And we chopped it up a little bit. And I just got all my thoughts out to him. And he's just like, I wish you the best. Like, you look like your head's in a good space. Like, if you need anything from me, like, let me know. And that was all he really had said to me, like, regarding Michigan through this whole process. And then I committed. Ironically, I didn't even told the coaches before I got to commit because it was just a time crunch. I didn't get to tell Coach Harbaugh or anything. And Joe was the very first person after I took the earbuds out and we're done with all that. My phone was ringing on the call from Andrell. He FaceTimed me. He was so happy.
All right. So Darius, the recruitment is out of the way. How do things look for you moving forward? What's next for you?
I got about 3 more weeks here in Oregon. Gonna keep working out with my trainer, Aaron Woods. Just try to get better and be the best I can when I get to Ann Arbor.
All right. So you're early enrollee coming in here for the winter term?
Yes, sir. That's the plan.
All right. And so an opportunity to come in and compete early. And like you said, give Michigan a piece at receiver that they just don't have. A tremendous physical specimen. And here's what I like to say. I was talking to your guy, Brandon Huffman. He said, now, stay with me, Sam. He looks up to DK Metcalf, but I think Darius is a more polished receiver. He's a better ball catcher than DK Metcalf, which is lofty praise. Where he said, hey, you actually do a little something better than your idol. But obviously, you got to come and do it at Michigan first. Congratulations on that. My last question, and I'll see if the other guys have any more. But it really felt like your connection with Josh Gaddis was a big factor in this. That was one of the things that your dad really seemed to say, that you guys got a better feel for him on the visit than you had in the 10 or 12 months prior to that. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, definitely. Well, Coach Gaddis is a great, just human being overall. But I had never met Coach Gaddis in person until this past weekend. Actually, I had once, but I wasn't being heavily recruited at the time. And he's a lot different than meets the eye. He's really goofy. He's funny. But at the end of the day, he's a caring football coach. He cares about his players more than football. And I think my parents trusted Coach Gaddis to just take care of me and mold me into a young man they want me to be. You know what I mean? Like Coach Gaddis, the type of person I look up to, type of person I'd want to be when I grow up. So I think that's only right that I go play football for him,
Guys, you have anything else for Darius?
I just wondered how much 12-1 maybe played a role. Seeing Michigan beat Ohio State, seeing them win the Big Ten title, knowing, you've been recruited by everybody, knowing that, there was some criticism. Michigan couldn't quite get over that hump, beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten title. How much did seeing them do that maybe give you belief that, okay, I know this program's capable of doing this. Maybe I can help them take the next step?
It definitely helped. It's kind of perfect storm the way things worked out with Coach Cristobal leaving and Coach Gaddis getting back in touch with me. Then me just obviously I watch college football, so I knew Michigan was doing good. And just the way things had transpired was a perfect storm for me, Obviously, them being 12-1 is a little bit enticed. I like playing football is a lot more fun when you're winning games. But it wasn't that big of a factor, to be honest. I think the biggest thing for me was the academics and just the camaraderie amongst that coaching staff and Coach Harbaugh and Coach Gaddis, and my parents just trusting them to mold me into a young man they want me to be.
All right. Well, Darius, appreciate your time and congratulations on becoming a Wolverine. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks a lot. Darius Clemons, the first guest on our special live edition of the Michigan Recruiting Insider Podcast. And he said it was a laser, guys. He said that 437 was a laser. And I had heard that from some of our analysts before. So he's just confirming what they told me already. A big, physical, but fast pass catcher. You put him on the other side of Amorion Walker, who we were talking about to start, and we'll get back into. You got two guys that are 6'3", 6'4", that can really, really run, Steve.
With what Michigan has in the receiver room, I think not only does Clemons add something different to what they have, as does Walker, but these are super high upside guys. I think it's important for Michigan not to just add the length and the size there, but to add guys who have really high ceilings, because they do have a nice receiver room right now. You got Andrell Anthony has a couple of years left. They're returning a bunch of experience next year. Ronnie Bell will be back again. There's a lot of experience, a lot of talent there already. That's where it's a perfect combination for me to add the physical type that you want. But these are also guys whose best football is well ahead of them still. And I think Michigan turned the dynamic of their receiver room in this class is a 180. from waking up this morning to where we are now, all of a sudden receiver looks like one of the strengths of this class for sure. As far as maybe not today, but down the road, these are all three of the guys that they signed today are guys who could really make a big impact down the road at some point.
Right. All right. So we started out, Brice, and we were talking about Amorion Walker. And as you guys know, I made it down here to Louisiana, made it over to Ponchatoula, and he said a couple of weeks ago, look, I'm ready to go to Michigan. I think that he had been leaning that way for some time. I think he had been leaning that way since the Under the Lights game. But as he got to not just see the team, but I think this is the biggest deal. People want to know what it was that maybe put Michigan over the top with Amorion Walker. I know there's some speculation in ND circles that, hey, it was NIL. And, Notre Dame came strong with NIL. I don't think that was the distinguishing characteristic for Amorion with Michigan. I think it was his connection with the coaching staff. I mean, both programs have rich tradition, picturesque campuses, iconic stadiums, opportunities to play early. But I think he was closer to Michigan staff. And I've been making this point for some time, guys. And this is, it starts with Ron Bellamy, who had the connection through their head coach, as Coach Hank Tierney is a legend in Louisiana. He was Ron's head football coach as a high schooler over at Archbishop Marrero Shaw. And now he is Amorion's coach at Ponchatoula. And so that was the initial plug, but they formed a really, really tight relationship. And then Steve Clinkscale comes in when Michigan was talking defense, and he's recruiting them. And even after they talked defense, he kept recruiting them. Then Josh Gaddis, when it became clear that it was going to be receiver all the way, Josh Gaddis was on him super hard. And then Jim Harbaugh. And he said this in the interview, Brice, and this should really, really stick out. He said, no head coach put the effort into me that Jim Harbaugh did. And it was a startling difference in the amount of attention he received from the head coaches. Think talking to Jim Harbaugh every day, Brice, and he's talking to Brian Kelly, once every blue moon? That makes a difference in the recruitment like this. I mean, I think people are overthinking, well, how did it happen? And what Michigan's coaching staff collectively did a better job. I think Dale Alexander, give him credit. Michigan, Notre Dame fans are being hard on Dale Alexander right now. He did a hell of a job. Dale Alexander didn't have help. He didn't have help like Michigan's coaching staff did. Good recruiter. Have watched him from afar. Think he's good at what he does, but he was outgunned in this one. I mean, if he has, he only has two hands. Michigan had 8. And Brice, I mean, that's tough for any coach to contend with, and certainly wasn't one that was going to win Notre Dame this battle. It's why Michigan came out on top.
Real quick, Sam, you might have another guess, so just take a peek there too.
Okay.
Coming in. So
yes, we do. I see him.
You can
and
let him in.
A big time talent who I first heard about from, anyone on the West Coast is Brandon Huffman, right? But he talked about some guys that not many people were talking about outside of their locale. So he said Zeke Berry, and he said Colston Loveland, and he said Sam, big time ball player. Any place in the country he can play. We saw that not only when Bama offered, but of course when Michigan jumps in. And I don't know about you, Brice and Steve. I don't know if Michigan has had a player from Idaho in the past 80, 90, years. So Colston Loveland blazing a real trail here in Ann Arbor. Colston, thanks for joining us, and congratulations on becoming a Wolverine.
Of course. Hey, how you guys doing? I appreciate you.
Thanks a lot. So, Brice, take us into what it was like to watch Colston play in a game up there in Idaho.
It's a trip. It's a trip to Idaho. I've never been to Idaho. That was the first. People are amazing. Love the people. The biggest thing what I wanted to see was I kind of figured, no offense, Colston was going to dominate. I just did. It's a lot of people looking like me and Steve out there and Sam. It just wasn't They're not the most impressive looking high schoolers she's going to get. But it's what else he was doing. He was playing every play. He's playing defense, running 100 miles per hour. He's playing offense. He's not taking plays off. And I think it's his detail, his focus, and everything he does into his game makes him elite. I think because he does play in Idaho, people overlook him. But at the same time, Sam, Colston, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had offer from Alabama. You had some big offers here. It's not like you're that overlooked. So, I think this is a huge win, and I want to ask you, Colston, how big was Jay Harbaugh just with your recruitment? Just, factoring in why you picked Michigan.
Yeah. No, Jay was real big in the process for sure. He hopped on me. I don't know exactly when they offered, but right when he hopped on me, Michigan, like that offer and him just talking to me felt like I honestly didn't even know how to tweet it out. I was like, damn, this is Michigan. You know what I'm saying? This is like football right here. But no, Jay's done a great job recruiting me, and he, always hitting me up, always sending me, practice films and cut ups of what they're doing. And, just kind of making me feel like I'm already there when I'm not. And he did an excellent job, obviously.
Yeah, so Brice talked about the way that you were able to dominate the competition in Idaho. What made you jump out at me was, look, I look for guys who go find work. Like when you complete the job where you are, can you go find work? And that was the thing in talking to Brandon. He said, man, he would go anywhere in 7-on-7 to play anyone. So was that a thing for you, Colston, a concerted effort to make it out wherever the competition was, to sharpen your game and basically show people what you could do?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I was gonna originally play some 7-on-7 with Forward Sports, out of Seattle. Mm-hmm. But that things just kind of didn't work out practice wise. So I played out of this team in Boise, and we went down to Dallas for a pylon tournament. And because they were like, the Coach Biggs, he was like, this is going to be the biggest tournament, like we want you at this one out of all of them. So came to that one, and there was some good competition for sure. A lot of dudes with stars, and that kind of like, it got me excited because everyone's like, oh, there's no talent in Idaho, or there's not that much talent in Idaho. You're not playing great competition. And then I was like, all right, now I just got to dominate these guys, show them that it's not like, and then that ended up being it ended up working out pretty good. Showed out pretty good against some good talent.
Yeah. So Steve, I don't know if you have anything, but Bama comes in. Was that when it got real for you, when Bama came in with the offer?
Yeah. That was pretty real. That was real. I was talking to, what's his name? Who? You probably wouldn't know. He was the coach. He was the tight ends coach, and then like 3 weeks after he offered me, he got fired or let go. Jay Graham, maybe. Jay Graham, yeah. But when he talked to me, and he liked me a lot, obviously, and he shot me the offer after about 3 weeks of talking, and I was like, yeah, okay, this is biggest schools in the country for football. So that's when I started, and I was getting real for sure.
So when did you know it was Michigan, Colston? When did you decide that that's the place for you?
So actually, I liked Michigan, like I said, like right when they offered, I was super interested. And then I was supposed to go on a visit to Colorado last weekend in June because I had those set up. And then I was like, kind of talked to my family a little bit and talked with Coach Jay, and they were like, we'll get you up here this weekend if you'd rather do that. And I said, yeah, why not? And then right when I got up there, the feeling, and then, the love from the coaching staff as well, and the love from the players even, and just, everyone kind of over there has just really great personalities that I see in every day in the small town of Gooding. And that kind of right there when I got there, obviously committed there, is when I knew, yeah, this is where I want to be.
All right. So your game, for people who haven't seen you play, Colston, tell Michigan fans what you're going to bring to the table.
I'm hoping to bring a mixture of both. I can catch a lot that comes at me, and then blocking. I converted to a tight end my junior year, which is a little change for sure. But blocking, it's all the same stuff. It's just how much you put into it. So I'm hoping to bring both a great skill of blocking and then the hands. And then, you know, on special teams, I'll work hard and I'll hit some people, and so I'm excited. I'll bring a lot.
When I saw Brice's video, I said cheat code. I said a cheat code. That's what he is every time on the field, man. So
well, his coach told me freshman year. Now he might have been off of numbers. You were 6 foot 170, something like that. And now you're what?
6'6", 240 last time I weighed. 238.
I'm still waiting for that.
That's what I said, man. How come I couldn't get some of that? Come on, man.
Yeah, no, it kind of just came out of nowhere for sure.
Well, Steve, you got anything for Colston?
I was just gonna say he'll be the first varsity athlete from Idaho to sign with Michigan since Rex Wells in 1943.
Wow.
and only the second ever. The other one, Price Gilmore in 1894. So
dang.
you're joining a very, very select group of Idahoans, you know, at the University of Michigan. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think just massive upside for you, man. I know the Michigan staff really excited to get you. Are you enrolling early or signing early?
Yeah,
you're in early, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. All right, so I'm gonna give you the opportunity to say hello to one of your future teammates. Keon Sabb comes in with us now. Colston.
What up?
Keon Colston. Hey, Keon, how you doing?
Yo, what's up, bro?
How you doing?
Good. How you, bro?
Good. Congrats on the signing, man. Congrats on the signing.
Appreciate it, bro. Ready to be a part of the family.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, Colston, congratulations on becoming a Wolverine, and we'll see you when you get to Ann Arbor.
Hey, appreciate you guys. You take care.
All right, thanks a lot. That was Colston Loveland, who joins us, and now the man who made waves today, Keon Sabb, one of the best athletes, regardless of position in this class. He can, you want him to be a ball hawk at safety, he could do that. You want him to come down and ride down in the box and lay a hat, he could do that. You want him to blitz, he can do that. Did I describe you accurately, Keon?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a good description.
All right, so let's get into your Michigan recruitment and take us through how they got on the radar with you. We sort of talked about this a little bit in our previous interview, but there are a lot of people who discounted Michigan as a presence in your recruitment in the summer. And I say, hey, look, Michigan, they've done a good job. They're really right there on the heels of this official visit. Was it really that close? Did they really make that kind of rise with you over the course of the summer, like I said they did?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely I made a good connection with the coaching staff at the beginning of recruiting, when they had the first defensive coaches and stuff like that, and then they obviously left and got some new ones. So once they left, it took me a little while to make some connections with the new coaches, but it came really fast. And in the summer with the visit, they definitely are one of my top 3, top 2 for sure.
Yeah, man. So then you settle on Clemson, but you can never predict coaching changes. So when were you surprised when Coach Venables got the job at Oklahoma, or had you been hearing that was likely to be the case?
First time my dad actually met him in person, he said, what some other jobs would you be interested in? And he actually said Oklahoma. That was like a year or two ago. So, coming around full circle now. So once we heard the rumors, I kind of figured, I kind of knew it was going to happen. So it was kind of tough at first, but, I got to, move on. He made his decision. I made mine. So now found the best option for me.
So I thought, and you corrected me when I asked you, I said, hey, man, Michigan had a great season. You came and you watched them beat Ohio State. Did that move them up in your eyes? And you said it didn't. I mean, so why didn't that move you like it moved some other guys? I mean, it just didn't seem to be as big of a factor with you.
It's not all about winning for me. I mean, it is about winning for sure, but just one game, if they were to lose that, it wouldn't have, lessen their chances of getting me, because I don't want to, base it off one game. Some mistakes could have happened, just one guy could have slipped up here and there. So I didn't want to base off my heart towards Michigan off of one game.
So you come from Jersey.
Yeah. And
the Jersey contingent at Michigan and the Michigan football program is strong. And I know some of those guys, man. How how prominent were they in your recruitment? I mean, were they sort of helping the coaches try to recruit you?
Yeah, for sure. RJ was on me for a while, man. It's crazy. As soon as they figured out Michigan was one of my top schools, Brad hit me. A lot of the guys from Michigan and Jersey, started hitting me. But for sure, RJ was like the top one, trying to get me there for sure.
I talked to Jet Howard, man. He said he tried to recruit you a little bit at one time too.
Yeah. He was recruiting me down here at IMG.
All right. So, what about your relationship with the coaches? Take us inside your connections with Ron Bellamy and with Steve Clinkscale. What's the vibe like with those guys?
Man, they feel like family. They basically are family. They're like I would say like right now they're kind of like uncles. I got my actual dad and stuff like that. They're definitely like father figures as well. They guided me through some stuff for sure throughout the season. They always talk to me and definitely put like a positive light on things for sure.
So when did you know Keon? I mean, you had everyone come. LSU's coming back on you. Ohio State was coming back on you. Clemson didn't give up. You got to figure Coach Venables was interested. Everybody in the country wanted Keon Sabb, but you settled on Michigan. When and why?
I settled on Sunday, so I made a decision with my dad and my family. We talked about it for a little while for sure. Once I decommitted, we started opening things up, trying to figure out schools and fill everybody out. And Sunday I actually figured it out, and I had a Zoom with the coaches as well, Coach Horrible and stuff like that. They were supposed to come down and see me, but I actually had COVID, so we just sat on Zoom, and I let them know that I was going to make the decision to come there. So that was definitely crazy. It was a dream come true for sure.
So how did they respond? What was the reaction like when you told them?
Man, they weren't really expecting it because we were just having a Zoom because they were supposed to come see me for my home visit, and then I actually told them. Harbaugh, he was happy. Coach Clink, he was jumping around. He was smiling. Somebody like that. Coach Ron, Coach McDonald. It was crazy. The morale was definitely high.
So I want to let the other fellas jump in. So I'll give you this question: where did they say you fit? Because I started out the interview saying, man, you could be anywhere in the secondary. It feels like to me, you could be both safety spots. You can be a nickel. I mean, whatever they want you to do. So where did they say they see you fitting? Is there a player in the defense that they compared you to?
They said I was like a problem solver. I can guard like the slots. I can guard all the wide receivers and stuff like that. And then some safeties are smaller and they can't really guard the tight end because the tight ends are like 6'6". They're bigger. Me being 6'3", I'm the problem solver, so I can guard the slots. I'm fast enough to guard them, and I'm big enough as well to guard the tight ends. So I'm kind of fitting all over the field free, and then I will come down and guard those bigger tight ends as well.
Brice, Steve, you got anything for Keon?
I wanted to ask you, as a prospect who decommitted, you were committed to Clemson for a while. How difficult is it to kind of reopen the process, knowing how stressful the process is for someone like you who had as many offers as you did when you made your original decision? Is it a situation where, is it a difficult decision, or what kind of goes into the thinking of reopening the process?
It's really difficult because you make a decision on a school and you're all in at first, and then some things change. So it was definitely tough, breaking the news to the coaches and letting them know because they had some real high hopes for me, big plan for me. But it was tough trying to talk to the coaches that I built a relationship with. I told them I was coming to school, I saw myself there, and then after all the things changed, it was really tough trying to make that decision and letting them know that I wouldn't be coming there anymore.
How did they react? Was it a difficult conversation?
The coaches with them, it's all love for sure. So they wanted the best for me regardless of where I went. But some of the coaches, they were unhappy for sure because they lose a commit. But
right.
They understood at the end of the day that I have to make the best decision for me.
Sure.
Right, but then Keon, you get past the turn downs, and then it's the turn up, right? You get a chance to be happy and be excited about going to Michigan, man. So when do you get to Ann Arbor? What are they saying about the opportunity to maybe play right away? I know you're gonna say you don't expect them to give you anything, but did they talk about the opportunity to get on the field right away?
Right now, there definitely is a great opportunity for me to get on the field early. But with any school, they don't promise anything to any guys. So I'm going in there ready to work, regardless of if I get on the field early or not. I'm going to go in there and put my best foot forward and work as hard as I can.
What's your height and your weight and your 40 time at this point? Your up-to-date measurables, because people haven't, I see people say, he's 6'2". I see people, he's 6'4". Where are you standing height, weight, and 40 time wise now?
I'm 6'3", 205, and the last time I ran a 40, I ran a 4.46.
There you go. So again, out there flying can be that problem solver, that chess piece that you were talking about. And then the other thing that I heard, Keon, they said, man, as soon as you got in the fold, you got your recruiting hat on, you start trying to help get other guys in the fold. Is that right?
Automatically. I got to make sure I'm trying to win championships. I'm trying to, make sure my class is great. They got some really good guys, but I was just trying to make sure any other guys that got Michigan in our top, I was just make sure I was trying to get them.
Yeah, I know you
like
tried.
Darius Clemons, I hit him immediately.
And he committed.
Yep.
Hey, they need to put you. Hey, man, I don't know how NIL works in recruiting. I mean, maybe that's a gig you can get to help with recruiting, man, because that's a high hit rate. Are there any guys at IMG that that Michigan is going to be more in play for because you're there? You think?
23 wise for sure. 2022. Most of my friends, stuff like that, my teammates, they made their decisions today. They already signed, so the 22 class is kind of out of there. But 23 is for sure. We got Carnell Tate. We got Justin Benton, a D lineman. Carnell Tate, wide receiver, best wide receiver I've guarded for sure. Then we got Will Norman. William Norman. He's from New Jersey. Great D lineman, a freak athlete. 6'5", freak athlete. Played basketball, so he got a really good feel with his body and stuff like that for sure.
Oh man, so Keon is going to be. Are you going to be the pipeline guy to IMG for the?
Man, I hope so. Yes, and I got to get some jersey safeties as well. Got to keep that tradition going. Brad and RJ. Get some safeties as well.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, Brice, you got anything for Keon before we let him go?
For me, I actually went to see Will Johnson earlier, and so he mentioned you. Can you just talk about the DB class you guys got? Because it's really impressive. So what do you think about that DB class you got coming in?
I think we got a really good chance to be a really good back end. All of us come in as mid-years. So I think it's one of us that don't come, but having us all come in at mid-years is really great. So we're going to have a really good time, like getting all of our defensive stuff down and gelling for like the spring into the season. So I think our class for the DB should be really good.
Yeah. Hey, man, I'm as excited to see Antoine Sabb show up as I am Keon Sabb. So the Sabbs are coming to town, and appreciate you taking time. I know it's a busy time for you, but you made time for us today, so I appreciate that. Congratulations on being a Wolverine. And when do you get to Ann Arbor again?
I think I'm coming because I have the UA All-American game, so I'll probably get there between the 3rd and the 5th.
Gotcha.
Of January.
All right, well, Keon, and so you got Keon Sabb that'll be in that game. Amorion Walker is in that game. Will Johnson's in that game. I got to go through the roster, but Michigan is going to be strong, going to be thick, going to be deep in the Under Armour game. So congratulations, Keon, man. Thanks a lot for your time.
Appreciate it.
All right, that's right, folks. Keon Sabb joined us here on our special edition of the Michigan Recruiting Insider. And guys, just a big-time talent that helped round out this class in a way that I think few people saw coming there, Steve.
Big from a perception standpoint, too, right? I mean, there are a few guys I think they picked up today that aren't just talented, but really do kind of help. You think about it is like, the question, can Michigan capitalize on beating Ohio State, winning the Big Ten title? You only get a few weeks to do that before early signing day, right? I mean, there's really not that much time. And you're talking about trying to recruit elite talent. Most of these guys, like Keon being one, has been recruited for 2+ years. It's not easy to just get back in. Even if you look more appealing than you did 4 or 5 weeks ago, it's not easy to walk in. That's why I think I think Michigan did about as well as they could have done as far as capitalizing on their on-field momentum in such a short amount of time. I mean, you're talking a few flips here. Keon, borderline flip, really. I mean, it really, not technically, but pretty much. And adding guys at positions of need, but adding high upside, highly ranked guys, that had initial interest. That's the parallel between Keon and Darius Clemons. Both guys who I think had really high interest in Michigan early, but I think the on-field stuff really turned things around in both of those recruitments. The coaching changes obviously made a difference too, but again, I don't think if those coaching changes are always going to take place, Michigan's not the school standing at the end if they don't go 12-1 and win the Big Ten title. That's my opinion on it. Maybe they beat Ohio State, lose to Iowa. Maybe it's still the same. But either way, they're not the one. We're not talking about these two and maybe a couple other guys today. If Michigan goes 8-4, 7-5, not even 9-3, right? I don't know if we're talking about these guys right now. So really great job by the staff to take advantage of what they could in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. I said in the summer when people were discounting Michigan as a finalist, and you might recall Steve Wilfong's interviews. Even the commitment interviews can be very, very telling. And Keon said in that interview, I started with Clemson, and then I was saying I was going to go to Michigan. Then I was saying I was going to go to Georgia, and it kept going back and forth. Then it came back to Clemson, and it just felt like to me one school was different than the rest, right? I know what he said. It wasn't just about winning, but it's about at least winning some, right? Michigan was coming off a 2-4 season. Brice and Steve, Clemson is competing in the playoffs. Georgia is a winning team, so you got to believe that it did look a little different, and so you felt like Michigan would have more of a leg to stand on to come back around in his recruitment if they won some games. It just so happened he was so cool with the coaches. That he and his family and his dad, you could tell here's a little known fact, as we're going to bring Deuce Spurlock on as our next guest here coming up. But little known fact, Keon Sabb, his dad, actually came up to Michigan for a game without Keon. I think it was the Northwestern game. I don't know. See, this is a little something that we were reporting for the first time on the Michigan Recruiting Insider podcast, right? So a lot of times when I talk about these things, we can't reveal to you everything we know. We can't divulge all the details when we say, hey, Michigan's in with this guy, that, hey, they got a shot at this guy. Hey, they're going to come back around on this guy. When I talked about Michigan maybe having a chance to get back in with Keon, it was kind of talking about that. Hey, he wasn't necessarily here in a recruiting capacity, but he was here in a way that would allow the coaches to establish more of a rapport and more of a vibe with him. So if the opportunity ever presented itself, well, hey, they are that much closer to having an impact, and ultimately they went and got him. And I know some of those IMG names sounded very familiar. We all have seen Carnell Tate, right?
I think Carnell Tate or Jalen Brown, I think they're the two best receivers in that cycle. I mean, Carnell Tate put on a show at IMG this season. I mean, he is big time. So
yeah. And Michigan all over him, and Jalen Brown, Michigan all over him as well, as both of those guys showed well in camp settings. You know who else showed well in the camp setting? Our next guest. He came up to Michigan's camp. Not a lot of people knew who he was. I remember because, the media wasn't allowed in those camps. I haven't told Deuce this. So media wasn't allowed at those camps. So there was a Coach Will McMichael from Belleville. He called me up. And his son is one of the rising linebackers. Jeremiah Beasley is what, 24, Brice?
He's 24.
Yeah. So Jeremiah Beasley, ball player, big time linebacker in this state. Remember the name Jeremiah Beasley if you don't know it. But he didn't call me talk about Jeremiah. He called me and he said, hey man, who is this kid, Deuce Spurlock? He said, man, this dude is up here killing it at this camp. He said, did Michigan offer him? I said, no, I don't think he has offer. He said, man, they better offer this guy. And next thing you know, Deuce Spurlock came away from that camp with that offer. He joins us now, fresh off of signing his national letter of intent to the Maize and Blue, and he is officially a Wolverine. Deuce, congratulations on putting pen to paper, man, and officially becoming a Wolverine.
Thank you. It's great, to be honest. I can't wait to get up there.
So take us back to that camp experience, Deuce. I know we've had this conversation before, but relive it for us and relive it for the fans of what was on your mind when you came up. Did you come here expecting to get an offer? Did you feel like, I got to prove it to him? What did you think as you set foot in Ann Arbor?
Man, to be honest, I was just up there trying to get better at my craft and all that. But I was just really in awe because I was in Michigan. It's like the best school in the country. So it's something like you got to have a high expectation for yourself. So going through that camp, I was thinking, all right, I'm doing pretty good. All that stuff. I caught a pick. Then I got it back. And then the thing that really stuck out to me, though, was Coach Hilo made me run because I took my eyes off my man. That's real right there. So that's really what stuck with me. And I was like, dang, that's crazy. You really made me run. I was like, it's crazy.
like,
You really made me run. So
it's like, come on, coach. It's like, hey, man, this is a camp, man. This is a camp, right? But you got that offer. So you know, players know when they're doing well. So you knew you were doing well at the camp. Did you think as you were doing well, man, I'm gonna get this offer? Did you think that, or did it catch you by surprise?
I kind of thought I was gonna get it, but still though, just getting the offer, it kind of just sends you a little shock. So I was like, I got the offer, but man, it's crazy. Like, this is Michigan, so yeah, it kind of still sent me in a little shock.
So how did that manifest? How did that shock manifest? Were you were there tears? Was your mom? I think your mom was with you, right? I mean, what was the reaction of you and your family when you got that offer?
So crazy story. So I was going to take some pictures. I think it was just me and my vent. Oh, who was it? It was me, my mentor, and my mom. And so we was coming down. I was getting ready to go take the pictures, about to walk in, take a photo shoot. And my mentor, Vince, he was like, Deuce, let's go. You got to get undressed. And I was like, what's happening? He was like, come on, we got to get undressed. So I go in there, I take all my stuff off, put all my clothes back on and stuff. I head up, and we're going in there. We're going to an office. It was like, So I kind of know it's happening. So I was like, now I see why it's coming to get me. So we went in there, talked to Coach Hilo, Coach Mack, and they just offered me. I was like, yeah. Couldn't stop smiling. And my mom, we came back. My mom, she was like, she didn't want me to tell nobody. Mama tell them still. She was there crying and stuff. I was like, dang. So yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, she saw that checkbook. She's like, I don't have to pay for college. That's what the tears are about. And so, we've been covering. So Brice and I, so this is a story, and you can confirm this for us, because we were trying to figure out, hey, we think Deuce is getting close to committing to Michigan. And I think it was your grandmother is on Twitter, and she said, this is before you made your decision. She said, yeah, I got to get my winter coat ready. I got to go get my winter coat. And I was like, that must mean Deuce is coming to Michigan. So was she talking about Michigan at that point?
Yeah, she was.
I figured that was the case. But this linebacker class, Brice, we know that George Hilo really prioritized speed, quickness, athleticism, and coachability. And so that was one of the things that stuck out to me, Brice. I wonder if it stuck out to you that way.
Yeah, I mean, you watch Deuce play. He can obviously play sideline to sideline, but I think what was even more impressive is, Deuce, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you had nearly, 200 tackles? I mean...
Yes, sir. 186, so pretty close. Almost.
I mean...
186 tackles in a season?
In a season?
Like one season?
Yes, sir.
Man, is that like a record at your school?
Well, for our school, yeah, it is. I had 186 and 27 or 30 tackles for a loss and 8 sacks.
Ooh.
So I think the 186 and the 27 tackles for a loss were a record.
That's got to be like Madden numbers. Like you don't just get those numbers. But no, Deuce, I asked you this morning because I was curious too. George Hilo did a good job with recruiting you up to the very end too, because you told me, hey, just because I committed to Michigan, that don't mean other schools don't like me as well. I mean, you said Auburn, Clemson, Florida, even Washington came in. So can you just talk about that process of now, you think you're committed, you think you're good, and all of a sudden you got all these schools just reaching out and calling you and trying to flip you?
Yeah, the crazy thing, my mentor Vince, the same guy who I was up there with, he was like, at the beginning of the summer, he was like, you're going to go to one of these camps and you're going to blow up. And I was like, well, what happens. And then he said, at the end of the recruiting trail, they're going to start calling you and texting you, trying to get you to flip. And I was like, I don't think they'll do all that. So we fast forward to now, it's like I had a lot of people calling me, texting me, and it was crazy because, like, what he said was true. And I was getting, like, crazy texts and all that type of stuff, like, every day, like, calls and all that type of stuff. So it was crazy, but just listening to Michigan and what they had to say to me, it kind of stuck with me, and just the camp experience that I had, it wasn't something I could pass up on. And the brotherhood that we have there, especially like how close we are as a class, but how close they are as a football team, that's something I couldn't pass on.
I could tell, and I want to toss it over to Steve. I mean, I could tell what kind of season you were having without seeing your numbers by seeing the different schools that came in, man. I mean, Auburn was turning up the heat. We heard Florida was starting to show you some love. I mean, there are some other schools that were starting to come. I think maybe Clemson, some other schools were coming in there. So who were all the schools that started showing you love based on the season you were having?
Auburn, Clemson, Florida, Washington, Boston College tried to get back into it. Vandy, I'm trying to think. South Carolina. That's as far as my memory's taking me right now. Syracuse. That's as far as my memory's taking me right now, but I'll probably think of something later.
Yeah, so Steve, that was I know when you saw Clemson, that was one of the ones that I think got your attention.
Yeah, Clemson and Florida definitely got my attention.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know another school that was recruiting you thought you reminded them a lot of Clemson's linebackers that Clemson has had in their defense. I assume that was maybe the dialogue with Clemson that you would be a good fit in their defense. My question was, do you have any? You already told one pretty good story about George Hilo. I kind of want to know more about what it's like to be recruited by Coach Hilo, as he seems like a pretty unique guy and coach on the recruiting trail.
He's some of the stuff I can't say, but let me just tell you this: Coach Hilo's definitely like one of the top 5 funniest people I know. Like, hey, everything he says has a purpose to it, but he gets like the right words to say it. So, just man, let me just tell you, he did not want me going anywhere else. I'll just say it like that. He didn't want me going anywhere. So.
Hey, so you came on a visit. So there's some guys in the 23 class that you're kind of connected to with when it comes to, man, I don't know how well you know them, but they see your game, saw your tape. So Michigan got Raylan Wilson and they're talking about, hey, you got some speed coming up from the South, you from Alabama, Raylan from Florida. When you were on campus, maybe the freakiest athlete Nicholas Harbor. Yeah, Nicholas Harbor. You were on campus with Nick Harbor. So I'm curious, had you heard of him before you met him? And when you got home, did you have to look him up to say, man, to see if what they said about him was true?
Yeah, I had to. For him to be that tall, that fast, but that strong, that's like some generational stuff right there. Like, they're amazing athletes on this earth, but then there's like people who's just born with it. So they're like, that's something like you can't teach all that. So for him to be like, he's definitely like, he's a freak of an athlete. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And so that was the day you committed, and that seemed to have a real impact on him. I'm curious, Deuce, maybe not necessarily those two guys, but just in general. I mean, had you taken an active role in trying to recruit other guys? And if you haven't in the past, are you going to do that in the future?
I took a little bit. So I did a little bit of recruiting, but I definitely will be recruiting harder in the future. So we can get our point across. Like who wouldn't want to come to Michigan? Like that's the motto. So
I got you. So what's next for you on the agenda? When do you get to Ann Arbor? Sort of take us through what's on the horizon for Deuce Spurlock.
For now, I want to finish school, get over a 3.5, 3.6. Then after that, I'm gonna be working like crazy. Try to get my body in football shape, even though football season can really prepare you for that. But I'll be in Ann Arbor May, so it'll be during the summer. But I'll be working just like I was there. So that's the gist for me.
Now, I know nothing is promised, but did they talk about the opportunity to see the field early? I mean, what's the conversation about when it comes to when they say you might be able to see the field?
Definitely how I develop. If I pick up the playbook and all that fast, I can see the field. So it just depends on really myself is how I want to play it. So if I put in the work and all that stuff, I'll be able to see the field early.
Gotcha. Well, Deuce, so happy for you, man. I know you worked hard for it. You worked hard for that offer. We saw it. and the culmination of it to be able to commit and then ultimately sign today. Just super happy for you, super happy for your family, and congratulations, and looking forward to seeing you when you get to Ann Arbor.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. That's Deuce Spurlock, officially in the fold, officially a Wolverine, and hard not to get excited for him, guys, right? I mean, I can imagine what it was like for his mom to realize, man, college is paid for. She was like, hallelujah, heck yeah, I don't have to pay for college. My baby just went out here and earned a scholarship, and that's exactly what he did, because look, it's no small thing to be able to impress some of the guys that were calling me about Deuce Spurlock at that camp. And they didn't know who he was. And that's how you know it's a ball player. Like, you go to some camps and you got a list of who's going to be there, right? So you're looking for them. But then there are the guys that you show up, you don't have any idea who they are, and then they make you notice them. And that's what Deuce Spurlock did at that camp, Steve.
We were just talking about Samaj Morgan at Ferris State in the same vein, right? As a guy that, you didn't really know a ton about him, then you see they pop right away. To have those SEC schools and Clemson call in late is a really great sign that he's another prospect they've recruited who's on an upward trajectory heading into Ann Arbor, right? I mean, that's at an important position this cycle too. I think linebacker's a spot they wanted to get a little more depth, get a little more athletic at that spot. I think he answers both of those questions. I mean, obviously he answers the depth question. He's a guy, he's a player, but speed-wise, sideline to sideline type kid, and like I said, productive too. I know our national team is always talking about like quarterback productivity being a future success indicator. I'd be curious to know if a guy who has 186 tackles his senior year, it's like he's obviously not afraid to tackle the offensive player, right? I mean, it's like,
the dude must bathe in icy hot.
That's what's like.
Good grief!
I almost wonder if he'd get bored tackling so many. It's like, I got to do this again. I only got 27 so far this game. But just being productive as a trait. I wonder if that's something that is something that can carry over into the college level. A guy who's just used to being productive. So, I think Deuce has gained some momentum on our board today as a sleeper of the class type candidate, and I can see why. Like I said, productive, had some SEC, ACC schools come in late trying to gauge his interests, and a kid who has the athleticism to be a difference maker at linebacker.
Right. So that was an expected signing today. If you followed us over on the MichiganInsider.com, and by the way, over on the MichiganInsider.com, if you are not a member, there's still time left in our 50% off deal, but it ends at midnight. So, this is one of the best deals of the year. If you don't want to sign up for an annual, you can get in your first month for $1. Don't miss the opportunity, because it's going to go away at midnight. But you could get in on this scoop. And if you were around the board last night, you knew that Alex Orji, Brice, he was going to be joining the fold. And if you watch this, he has a gun. You watch his tape, he may be raw, but man, he can throw that rock. And, the Wolverines, you could tell that they had been looking at maybe adding a second quarterback in this class. And this is exactly the kind of developmental guy that it makes sense, because you can nurture him and grow him up while J.J. McCarthy is on the field doing his thing, Brice.
6'2", I want to say 220. People, it's funny because you mentioned how much raw he is, to the point where some people said, why not linebacker? I mean, he looks like he could literally play linebacker. Physically developed, like you said, rocket for an arm. But he's again, another guy that produced, over 2,000 yards throwing the ball. He's playing at a high level down there in Texas of high school football. And, he comes from a school, Sam, or a family that's very high in academics. He's got two brothers that attend right now, Vanderbilt. So for him, I think when he took that official visit to Michigan this past weekend, one, he wanted to kind of know, listen, am I playing quarterback? Am I coming in for, what am I coming in for? And they said, no, we want you at QB. And two, what are that academics looking like? You know, I think for him, comparing Virginia Tech to Michigan academics, I don't think they're on the same playing field. And I think that was a big thing. And two, he really connected with Matt Wise. That was a guy he really liked on the visit. He really liked his vibe. And I think how they showed him and how he would be used potentially like a Lamar Jackson sort of dual threat quarterback, like you said, he kind of used when he was with the Baltimore Ravens, was very appealing to him as well. So this is a guy they wanted in the class for a while. I think they didn't think they had a chance, but all of a sudden they're 12-1. So now you can start calling people that you usually can't, and they're going to answer the phone. And that's what happened here.
Yeah, and Steve, you know, quarterback recruiting, especially in this day and age with the portal, right, it's hard to nurture depth. It's hard to nurture depth. So you almost have to, as you go through cycles where you know who your guy is and who your guy might be for a couple of years, you almost have to kind of court the guys that know they need a little work, that know that they need some development before they see the field. Because, the guys who think they need to play right away, they aren't going to sit on the bench, Steve. They're going to hit that portal.
I mean, how many big quarterback names have we seen enter across the country just in the last 2 weeks? I mean, Calzada started 10 games for Texas A&M this year and enters the portal. Yeah, I agree. Interesting cycle to take two with Dante Moore in the wings in 2023, but I think they took the right guys to bridge that gap between the two. You know, both high upside, maybe raw, a little more raw type prospects that Michigan can get, see what they can do. Orji is a package type guy too, possibly like a guy they could throw in using a lot of different ways, right? I mean, that's another interesting wrinkle I think he brings to the table. Both his brothers are linebackers too. He's got the ability to play linebacker too. I would think it runs in the blood. Obviously Michigan recruited him for quarterback, but either way, the athleticism's there. I think he's a dynamic, definitely one of the more interesting pieces that Michigan added just in this class overall, let alone today. So yeah, no, fascinating duo at QB. But again, both guys that I think Michigan can, like you said, nurture, develop, and see where it goes. Because you're right. It's hard to build depth at quarterback these days. So I think Michigan maybe almost going against the grain a little bit by taking two, whereas a lot of other programs are going through the portal. I don't mind Michigan taking this route, knowing you have McCarthy and knowing that you're going to have at least a very legitimate shot with Dante Moore.
Yeah, man. All right. So that was one of the many fireworks on the day. I think the last one of the day, the last one to come through. We expected it, but it didn't make it any less exciting. And that is Derrick Moore, former commitment to Oklahoma. You go and Lincoln Riley, he goes to SC. There's a lot of talk, as we talked about in the last episode of the Michigan Recruiting Insight. A lot of people thought, it's going to be SC. Really, it turned out to be Michigan and Ole Miss. And I tell you, we saw Steve Wilfong put in a crystal ball. I saw a few crystal balls, and I just could not do it. Because you said it really, really perfectly last time, Steve. Say, man, you got Chris Partridge on the other side. You just can't feel easy. You can't feel easy until that guy's in the fold. I didn't feel easy until I heard out of the Magnolia State, until I heard out of Mississippi that they were thinking he's gonna go to Michigan. That's when I felt like, Steve, okay, I can put this crystal ball in. That's why I dropped one last night.
Nice little win. Because Partridge he's tough to recruit against. It's tough to recruit against Chris Partridge, let alone recruit against him when he knows who you are. Yeah, Michigan. He knows Harbaugh. He knows how Michigan, he has a little more, ability to know how Michigan's going to pitch, what they're going to do than almost any other assistant in the country. So another coaching change that benefits Michigan here. Lincoln Riley goes to SC. He decommits from Oklahoma. But again, another one where I suspect if Michigan's not 11-2 or 12-1, they probably aren't the school that jumps to the forefront of this recruitment. And with Cavante Henry a little shaky right now, Moore all of a sudden becomes a very important piece for Michigan in this cycle as a guy who could project to edge. I mean, he does have he looks like a guy who has a frame to build up even bigger maybe and play with his hand on the ground more often, but also could be a guy they could put at that edge spot. So yeah, I mean, you're talking about a few guys here who all of a sudden don't just commit, but are like important pieces of the class from a depth and sort of building things back up perspective. So yeah, no, a guy that I think we'll probably want to dive deeply into. I don't think we've done a ton on him, just scouting and just talking about what his abilities are yet. But a guy that I'm really interested to look a little bit further into and see really what kind of player Michigan's getting.
Yeah, no doubt. In a guy at a position that it is, I think we're going to see some of the guys that have been waiting in the wings emerge. I mean, there's some obvious guys that are going to play. Mike Morris is going to be a guy, right? Jalen Harrell is going to be a guy for them. You expect a guy like Braden McGregor to really rise to the fore, right, Brice? I mean, think about the parallels. I'm not saying that Braden is going to be. I'm not saying that he's going to be Aiden, Brice, but man, aren't there some striking physical similarities and background coming to Michigan for Braden and Aiden?
Well, they both played lacrosse in high school. He was at one time actually ranked higher than Aiden Hutchinson. He was at one time a 5-star. And the crazy thing about him is he had offers like from Clemson for tight end.
Yeah.
Like people don't understand that.
And Aiden had some offers for tight end too. That's why I said, man, it's like, man, it's freaky, the similarities between
now
them.
The big thing is he's coming off an injury.
Right.
And so, not only is it the injury, but it's the rehab that came from as well, because normally guys would just go in the facilities, kind of work through there. Once COVID hit, when he was supposed to come in, kind of shut everything down. So that kind of, I think, derailed his rehab or prolonged it a little much there. But he's on track. I think he's ready to go. I think he's waiting in the wings, and I think he's a guy that knows his moment will be next year. He knows it. I think I don't know if many people expected Ojabo to do what he did this year.
How could you? How could you?
We'll see. And I think the other thing too, talking about edge rushers, is that's the one question mark I have with this class because of Cavante Henry and Ethan Burke, who flipped to Texas. Where do they go? Do you look for transfer portal guys? Do you load up in 2023? There's certain, but at the same time, they have guys there now that I think can perform. I mean, you look at, Harrell. I thought he had a great game against Iowa. I thought he played amazing. So I think some of these guys, they're not getting loved just because it's tough to get on the field.
You think about it. Think about this. I mean, they packaged Jalen Harrell in that game. So they started out heavy run defense, and they had Jalen Harrell in there over David Ojabo. It just for the run defense. So it's like, man, you got to be balling if you're taking David Ojabo off the field, because it's not like, we saw David Ojabo in that game make some plays against the run, right? There was a big third down stop where he shed a block. He shed the offensive lineman and got off the block and made a tackle for loss. So he's no slouch in the run game. I think that's something that we saw him grow into as the season went on, because what team, if you got a choice, and this is not meant to disparage or disrespect Dave, but they're like, okay, I can run into Aiden, I can run the other way. I'm gonna run the other way. It's kind of what they said, right? David Ojabo just happened to be on the other side. And I think Michigan, anticipating that, was saying, hey, we got this big physical edge guy that is going to be stout against the run. And Jalen Harrell, to your point, played well in that game. But I mentioned the rotation, mentioned the guys likely to be in the mix, because I think more physically, I think he's going to be ready to come in and compete. Now, can he pick up the playbook fast enough? We have to wait and see. But, Steve, I don't think it's far-fetched to say, I think he's 6'4", 250 right now. I mean, what is David Ojabo, 255, 260? right? And I mean, you look at the picture that we had of Derrick Moore on the front page on that crystal ball, and he is cut, he is ripped, Steve, and he is like he's basically like punching an offensive lineman. Not I'm talking about punch in the football sense. He's punching an offensive lineman, and he has this guy often with a full extension of an arm. So you see how strong he is. I don't know that he's going to play early, but I certainly think he's going to be able to come in and compete for an opportunity to see the field right away.
250 is a nice weight too, right? At 6'4", 250 just sounds good as far as if Michigan wanted him to lose a couple pounds or gain a couple. Like there's a lot of leeway either way there where it feels like their strength and conditioning could get him. Like that's an in shape weight. I feel like that they could get him where they want physically pretty quickly. Luigi Villain, maybe a little bit. I mean, was Luigi a little bit shorter?
I think Luigi might have been a little bit shorter. I think that Derrick Moore might be a little more fluid.
Sure.
But Luigi, I think was robbed of some quickness from all those injuries.
Right.
He had all the like injury after injury after injury. If you saw Luigi in high school, if you saw Luigi at the Under Armour All-American game, I mean, Luigi was more of a prospect at the time than Kwity Paye. But he got bad luck with the injury bug, man. So that's one of those things you just can't predict. You hope that guys have some good luck in that regard so they can reach their physical potential. Because getting back to Derrick Moore, guy with a lot of physical potential, he's going to have some comfort based on all the St. Francis guys that are in this program. So anxious to see how that works out. But I want to get to Brice real quick before we close out, because you went over to Will Johnson's ceremony. And I just feel like we need to spend some time on talking about the guy that, I mean, he's the highest rated player in the class. He committed at a time where it wasn't like, yeah, sure thing, they're gonna be a big time performer. And remember, Ohio State was hot on his trail. And then when the chips seemed like they were down, he stayed committed. He stayed committed and helped recruit other guys to the class, Brice. So you went and saw his ceremony, and he just seems like a guy from a maturity standpoint, physically and mentally, that is really, really ready to step into the role, that role that he had in this class, and recruiting it. It just feels like he's ready to step into that role to be that kind of guy on the field for Michigan as well.
He's just a leader. That's the best way I would put it. And people around him gravitate towards him. I mean, I don't know if you saw my Twitter, but Samaj Morgan, who's committed to Michigan, was at the ceremony. Jacob Bowden, who's another top in-state underclassman, was at the ceremony. All to support him, because they believe in him and they believe in what he's accomplished. And so, one thing for me that I really took away from Will covering him, throughout these years is he's a team player. He's willing to do anything, right? So it's junior season, lockdown. Just lock down the side of the field. Okay? So what do teams do, Sam?
They go the other way.
We're going that way. Just like Aiden Hutchinson, We're going that way. So what does his high school coach do during the summer? Hey, Will, come here. How about playing safety? What does Will say? Sure, let's do it. And what does he do? Ball out there. Hey, wideout? Sure. QB, Wildcat? I'll do that too. I think too, it's funny because we talked to his dad, Deion Johnson, at the, signing ceremony too. And he said the same thing, Sam. He said, it's funny because when he committed, there wasn't all this hoopla with Michigan. They were 2-4. We didn't know where they were going. He said he had a lot of good options. Ohio State, like all these big schools still wanted him. And he said, deep down my gut, did I want him to go to Michigan? Absolutely. But he was like, the kid really wasn't 100% sure. He was looking at all his options. And he said a big reason why he liked Michigan was of those relationships. He credited, Lindquist, Coach Mo, kind of set that bond and that table right there. but then took over Bellamy and Klinkscale, and they kind of took it from there to a whole nother point where Will was like, listen, do you see the DB class we got coming in? Did you see what they did with the guys that got on roster now? Imagine us on there, once they get to work with us. So people should be really excited about him. He's a long, rangy corner, 6'3", 190, fluid as crap. He can, cover a guy. He can, even if you had him in the slot, he can cover slot receiver. He can do a lot. I think for Michigan, he was the Donovan Edwards this cycle. Like you just had to land him. And they did.
Yeah, they did.
And that
Yeah,
was a
you
big
did.
win, obviously. So.
You know what it made me think of? So Harbaugh, you remember there was some, at the time where the news wasn't out about him coming back. It was up in the air. All the media was speculating, well, why isn't there any news? Why haven't they announced an extension? And this was at a time where Ohio State was pushing for Will hard. I think they led for Will at one point. I think Will would admit that. And Harbaugh got wind, and he got on the phone. He didn't call, but he got on the phone with Will Johnson. Will Johnson knew that Jim Harbaugh was coming back before the media did. He's like, hey, I'm not going anywhere. Don't do anything. Don't commit. I'm going to be here at Michigan. So he made it a point, realizing, to your point, Brice, this dude is a foundational guy. He is the top player in the state. He is a legacy guy. He's at a position of need. He's like a 5-star too. He checked all these boxes, Steve, that made him a must-get prospect, and Michigan got him.
We don't throw must-get around a lot either, right? But he, with the legacy situation notwithstanding, to lose the optics of losing a 5-star legacy prospect potentially to your bitter rival is something that could have put a huge damper on this class's momentum and whatever they could do early on. Would have made it very difficult to, even with a great season, to get things to where they are now, right? Because Ohio State still had a good season anyway. Get it early verbal there, maybe you hang on to him or whatever, but you save yourself the headache of having to try to maybe recruit him against somebody else. He's not a kid they would have given up on. Instead, you have somebody who turned out to try to help bring guys into the fold for you. Obviously, we know it didn't happen, but he was a big factor in keeping Damani Jackson interested. A lot of other guys too, right? There's so much value in that idea. I don't think a recruit is ever going to choose a school because of another recruit necessarily, but they can help keep the seat warm for the staff to kind of do their thing and make their pitch. So, yeah, no, hard to understate. We talked about corner was probably the biggest need. They only signed McBurrows last year.
Right.
Even with the guys they have on the roster who have had a really good year this year, DJ Turner will be back for sure. Maybe Vincent Gray's back next year too. They only signed one guy there last cycle. They needed guys there either way. So he was you were right, Sam. He checked all the boxes as far as what do you look for in a must-get recruit? He pretty much he everything that you would look for in that situation he checked off. So you can't understate. I think it's well deserved for us to take a segment to talk about him because he's been a part of the class so long. He's not one that's going to be forgotten about, but I don't think the impact and magnitude of him being part of the class has maybe been talked about enough as far as big picture stuff goes for Michigan.
Yeah, like you said, Brice, you said guys came out to his ceremony, right? Yeah, guys see him in the class, and that helps lure other guys in the class. You think Keon Sabb? He talked to Keon Sabb. He was recruiting the hell out of Keon Sabb.
He did. He told me that. And you know what the crazy part is too? Companies are going to start to follow him. He signed a endorsement deal, he told us, with a water brand after he was talking about it and stuff. And at the ceremony, he had flyers like these. Like you go to a restaurant, you see these little barcodes. You scan those, goes to his Twitter and Instagram. So this man knows what he's doing. he's a guy that, but his dad said at the same time, he said, that's all Grano. But guess what? No one's going to care if you Quinn Ewers it. He didn't say Quinn Ewers, but I'm just saying, if you Quinn Ewers or DJ Ugalula or whatever his name is, and have a Dr. Pepper commercial one time, and guess what? Now you're not even, they're not filming anymore. He's in the transfer portal of Rico. You know what I mean? Like, he knows you got to do work. That's great and all. You got these endorsements potentially coming up, but guess what? You got to do something with it. So, hey, we'll see what happens. I mean, Ian Hutchinson, man, I saw him with the Bose thing handing it out. So, but yeah, I think
Jim said that. I think Harbaugh said that your film is your best promotion tool for NIL. Is how you play. Like, your film is still your best promotional tool, you know. And I think there's a lot of truth to that statement for sure.
Yeah, man. Uyajale, is that how you say his name?
How you say it?
That's what I just said.
I let Steve deal with
I don't
names.
know. I mean, yeah, Steve does the phonetic and
it's ukulele. I thought it was like ukulele. Almost like ukulele.
Okay,
but,
it may be.
Or ukulele.
Here's what I know. It wasn't what Brice just said.
No, it wasn't at all.
I know that. I know that.
Hey, Steve.
Brice didn't get it right.
Hey, Steve, what's the new quarterback's name?
Oh, Orji?
Orji.
Alex Orji?
Yeah, we gotta see. We gotta find out.
Sure.
We gotta find out if we're saying it right, but we're gonna err on the side of caution. Yeah. And call the man Orji until we find out exactly how you pronounce his last name, right? So no, I mean it is this class. I think it's likely the start of it being like it used to be for Michigan recruiting, where perennially they were a top 5 to 10 recruiting every year. Now we have experienced, you know, it's not like Harbaugh being in the top 10 is an anomaly. He's had classes in the top 10, but we've seen the peaks and valleys, Steve. It'd be top 10 class, and then it's like, you know, in the teens. Top 10 class, and then it's in the teens. I think he peaked I think the Donovan Peoples-Jones class might have been a top 5 class, I think.
Yeah.
But you know, you just didn't see them, or you haven't seen them live in that world consistently. And I think we are now, because now you got the on-field performance and you got the coaches. So you got some guys that really, really get after it. So we talk about Ron Bellamy. I think, Sharon Moore is already established as, you know, one of the top recruiters in the country. I think Ron Bellamy is on his way. Steve Clinkscale, I've been talking about him as a recruiter since before he got here, right? You know, he's got, Jay Harbaugh. More people need to talk about Jay Harbaugh as a recruiter, right? So, because he's a big time recruiter. And then if you didn't know what George Hilo was as a recruiter, or you had questions about George Hilo as a recruiter, getting Raylan Wilson, getting that alone says, all right, that dude, he can recruit. Like, if you go down to Florida, Tallahassee, Florida, you got Florida State right there. I know Florida State is losing prospects all over the place. I mean, they just lost, you know,
What a rough day for the Seminoles, man. Holy cow.
You lose the number 1 player in the country to an alum. Like, an alum came and knifed you.
You think he's welcome back?
I don't think so. He'll unretire that jersey.
Hey, but good for the kid, right? Good for the kid.
Yeah.
But my point, getting back to it, Raylan Wilson is right there. He's right there. And he bypasses Florida State, bypasses all the schools in the South, jumps over Georgia, jumps over Bama, jumps over Clemson, jumps over all those schools, and commits to Michigan. Man, you got to be doing some serious recruiting, Brice, to get that one done. And George Hilo did that. So I say that as you're drawing out this recruiting staff, they got a bunch of young go-getters. I just stole Devin's name. I'm not taking your name, Devin Gardner. You got a bunch of young guys that are tenacious on the recruiting trail, persistent on a recruiting trail. And that's often what it is. One of the things that Amorion Walker said to me, he said, even when I didn't show interest, even when it was like disinterest, you know, that would be discouraging to a lot of coaches, and they just never stopped. They were like, oh, you don't want to talk to me today? I'll call you tomorrow, kind of thing. And that's how you got to be in this day and age, Steve.
Michigan beats Georgia for top 100 linebacker out of Tallahassee is not a sentence I think we thought we would be typing, anytime recently, right? I don't think with Florida State, I don't even think Florida State was in his top 5 when he released a top 5,
Crazy.
right?
No, none of the Florida schools were.
Yeah, I mean, but to me, Ron Bellamy MVP maybe for Michigan this cycle.
And he signed the most guys in the class,
right? And got them their first kid out of Louisiana since Drew Dilio and Carvin Johnson. I think were the same cycle. Involved in Zeke Berry, Keon Sabb. Like we said, Michigan really needed to rebuild this defensive back class this cycle, and he really has kind of spearheaded the product of that. So to me, I would say Ron MVP here. Jay Harbaugh also way up there again. I think Colston Loveland, I think we agreed, one of the top upsides of anybody in the class, if not the top upside, really. He was also involved with Zeke Berry to an extent, and then obviously Marlon Klein too. But yeah, no, it does feel different. I mean, this is new territory for me. They've never beaten Ohio State since I've been doing this. This is like, it was, it's interesting to see, them be able to go out wearing Big Ten championship gear on the road and stuff. It's like, these are, like I've always said with Michigan, they've always had everything else in place to become a year in and year out recruiting power. The academics are there. The alumni base is there. They're putting kids in the pros. I mean, they're what, 3rd or 4th in the since Harbaugh's been there in NFL draft picks. The only thing they hadn't done is win the conference, beat Ohio State. They've done that now. Now we could start to see maybe Michigan flex their muscle a little bit more. And like I said, with the 22 cycle, they only had a few weeks. I think 23 is a class that fans should be super, super excited for, because they're in on a lot of guys. And I think that this might be a cycle they're going to start getting some of those guys because of the success they've had on the field.
Yeah, and I'm sure, look, Sharon to say, hey, don't forget about me, because I'm still recruiting Josh Conerly. I mean, this recruiting cycle isn't over. The early signing period is going to come to an end, but you got Josh Conerly, who's going to make his decision in February. And, we talked last week about how getting Andrew Gentry kind of relieved some of the pressure, but that doesn't mean that Michigan is going to let up recruiting Josh Conerly. He is a major, major target, still very, very high on Michigan, and has a great relationship with Sharon Moore. And not only that, Sharon Moore also still heavily courting the Virginia center, Victor Olawatimi, the Remington Award finalist. I mean, if you come out, let's say that we do the signing day show in February, and Sharon Moore signs Josh Conerly and Victor Olawatimi, we might have to revisit the MVP conversation, right? We might have to go back around and say, all right, Ron, you might have pulled it off again, but that's what you want. You want a number of guys on your staff where you could look at him and say, that dude could be the MVP recruiting. And they finally have that. I mean, it just felt like for so long, you could look at the staff, excuse me, and you could see, well, you're going to have to compensate for that guy on the recruiting trail. You're going to have to compensate for that guy on the recruiting trail. He's not going to be, you're going to have to assist him in, if he's the primary on a guy, you definitely going to need some support to help lure that. And you just don't see that with this. This is a staff of really strong recruiters. And if they have something to back it up on the field, it's why I think you're going to see them consistently, as I said, living in this top 10 recruiting world, guys. So we have gone long, right? We got to leave some meat on the bone for the next episode. We do these weekly. The Michigan Recruiting Insider. You can find them wherever you get your podcasts, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes. And remember, the 50% off deal on the MichiganInsider.com is still going on, but it is over at midnight. It is an outstanding deal. Gets you all the inside scoop, everything that we talk about on the podcast here on a daily basis, and then some, and then some. If you don't want to commit for a year, you can get in for $1 for your first month. That's over on the MichiganInsider.com, but the deal ends at midnight, so be sure to go take advantage. So I'm going to get something to eat. And maybe I might actually sleep, guys. I slept an hour. No, I slept an hour this afternoon. I didn't go to bed last night because I had to make it down here to Louisiana, get those stories ready to go for the morning, get over to Ponchatoula, and do that press conference for Amorion Walker. We'll be bringing that video to you. I know, Brice, you went to see Will, so we got a lot more to come on the Michigan Insider, folks. This is just what we do. You see it all on signing day, but we get it in every day. So if you aren't with us, be sure to join us over on the MichiganInsider.com. Fellas, another one in the books, right? It's fun. It's fun when there are like fireworks, like good fireworks on signing day, right?
Yeah, like I said, this is new territory. Not used to was it 16? I think was the last one that was really this exciting of a close. So with Rashawn Gary and Lavert Hill and those guys. So yeah, good day.
Hey, Rodney, Uptime, man. I drink something called Uptime, man. Uptime. It is a high-powered energy drink that keeps you going through. Now, I guess I should say you should sleep. Like you should sleep. That's what the doctor would tell you. That's what my doctor tells me to do. But I don't get a lot of sleep, so I need a little pick-me-up. Uptime does it for me. So just throwing that out there. But that'll do it for this episode, folks. Be sure to join us next time on the Michigan Recruiting Insider.